Hey guys, welcome to Brian's Man Cave. So today I decided to do another flick pick. And the reason is, I've been hearing a lot of this movie lately because the latest Star Wars came out, episode 8, in theaters about a few weeks back from when I'm recording this. And there's been a lot of Star Wars talk. And when there's Star Wars talk, there's typically Spaceballs talk as well. So people start throwing in Spaceballs references. Now, if you're not familiar with what Spaceballs is, it's pretty much a parody of the original Star Wars movie. Mostly the first Star Wars movie, which is actually the fourth Star Wars movie, or fourth episode of Star Wars. And so a lot of it's taken from that. And Mel Brooks, who's, he's got a lot of classic movies behind his belt now. He's got Young Frankenstein and what else did he have? Robin Hood Men in Tights, Blazing Saddles, Dracula Dead and Loving. I mean, he's done so many hilarious spoof movies in his, back in the 80s, 90s. And so this was one of them, and I used to watch it all the time. In fact, my first experience was when I went with my aunt and my cousin, and we went to go and see it in theater. And at the time, I actually wasn't really into Star Wars or any space movies at that time. And I thought I was not going to like the movie at all. I felt like I was being dragged into it. And I laughed through the whole movie. I mean, it was, after I walked out of that theater, I was like, that is the funniest movie I've seen in a long time. And even afterwards, when I had on VHS for a bit, I would watch it with my friend, and we would have contests to see who could last the longest without laughing. And typically we wouldn't get past the very first opening scene, which it's kind of a ship flying through space. Now, in the original Star Wars, you see the ship kind of coming through in the beginning, and it's quite a big ship. I mean, it's, in Spaceballs, they kind of make it 20 of them in a row, like one big huge ship just keeps going and going and going and going, and you just get to the point where you can't help but laugh. And so that's the kind of comedy you see through the whole movie. They build up a great character base, and they base it obviously off the original Star Wars. So you got, instead of Darth Vader, you got Dark Helmet. And that's played by Rick Moranis, who literally steals the scene, walking in the door, and he's got the giant Darth Vader helmet on. I mean, it's just massive helmet, and he looks ridiculous, and you have to laugh at him. And I mean, his acting is superb. I mean, Rick Moranis was always did a good job, even in Ghostbusters, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. He was in a lot of great, funny movies in the early 80s. And he literally steals the show in most of the case. But you also have a strong supporting cast as well. The main antagonist, Bill Pullman, he plays almost like a Han Solo / Luke Skywalker character. If you were to take both of those and blend them together, you get Lone Star, which is Bill Pullman's character. He's kind of like that sort of bumbling idiot in the movie who has the power of the Schwartz, not the Force, which is, they didn't want to call it the Force, obviously. In fact, they even make a joke about that, where he says the Force, and you're like, no, the Schwartz. So, okay. And they don't have the light side and the dark side. They don't have the Sith and the Jedi. But they do have the upside and the downside. So I guess they had to come up with two sides. And they even make a joke about that, too, where he talks about the two sides to every Schwartz. So, in the beginning, he basically is flying in his Winnebago with his sidekick, who is John Candy, another very strong supporting actor. John Candy's playing the Chewbacca of the story, which he's actually called in the movie Barf, or Bartholomew. And he's a Mog, so he's a half man, half dog. So he's kind of got that Chewbacca style, he's all furry and stuff, but he looks like a dog, so it's a little ridiculous too. I mean, John Candy does a great job in the movie. Not one of his better characters, I would say. I think John Candy was always better as being that lovable goofball kind of thing that you would expect from like Trains, Planes, and Automobiles and stuff like that. So it was kind of odd seeing him in a character like this, but he still did a great job. I mean, he still pulled it off. They also meet up with the princess of the story, which obviously is supposed to be the Princess Leia, but she doesn't have any relation to Lone Star. So there's no brother-sister thing going on here. She's just a princess who gets kidnapped, essentially, by Dark Helmet, and Lone Star needs to save her. And the reason why he needs to save her is because he owes money to not Jabba the Hutt, but Pizza the Hutt. So Pizza the Hutt is exactly what you would expect. It looks like a Jabba the Hutt, only it's a large, bubbling pizza that talks. He also has this other side, this character with him. I don't know who he's supposed to be portraying. Doesn't really look like any of the Star Wars characters. He's like some robotic-looking guy. I don't know. But anyways, so they owe money to Pizza the Hutt, and so the princess getting kidnapped. The king puts out a reward if she is caught or captured, saved from the Spaceballs. Of course, once he meets up with the princess, there's also a droid along with her that's kind of that C-3PO droid, but it's a female. It's voiced by Joan Rivers, the late Joan Rivers. And, it's okay. I mean, she does her typical jokes. The princess herself is, she does a good job, too. I mean, they kind of have this, she's a Druish princess. She's from, they're making the whole Jewish joke kind of thing. And she's from Druidia, which is the planet that they actually kidnap her from. Now, the whole story is that the Spaceball planet is running out of air. So that's the whole kind of, we have to save Spaceball, planet Spaceball. So they want to steal the air from Druidia. In order to do that, they hijack the princess, and they're going to demand air. So it's kind of an odd plot. I mean, it's interesting. It kind of makes you think if he had some of the environmental issues on his mind when he was creating this concept, Spaceballs planet or city or whatever is running out of air. Kind of interesting, but I mean, whatever. I mean, they had to have some kind of reason, rather than I just want to meaninglessly blow up planets or take over the world. So Mel Brooks himself, who plays two characters in the movie, he plays President Scrooge, who is he's kind of like the Emperor of Star Wars in a sense, but he doesn't have any powers. He's just a president. And he's kind of a goofball. He plays his typical goofball character, very similar to the character he played in Blazing Saddles, where he's kind of like that obnoxious, goofy guy who's full of power, loves women, kind of stupid at times. So he's kind of the president, and Mel Brooks also plays Yogurt, which is their version of Yoda. And you can clearly see it's Mel Brooks on his knees walking around pretending to be a Yoda-style character who introduces Lone Star into the Schwartz and pretty much gives him a ring, teaches him how to use the Schwartz. It's kind of like the whole Jedi training. And that's why I say he's kind of like a half Luke Skywalker, because he's also got this, power. But he acts more like a Han Solo. So it's really weird. And the fact that he ends up with the princess. And of course there's a love-hate with the princess. When he meets her, she hates him, he hates her, and then all of a sudden they fall in love. And of course, So there's one thing I want to bring up that was interesting in the movie, and that when he meets Yogurt has a gift shop where he talks about merchandising. And he starts showing all these toys from the movie. He's like, you could buy this toy, you could buy coloring books, you could buy the cereal, you could buy the flamethrower. And he's like, it's all about merchandising. And I never understood that scene. I was always wondering why they made a big scene over that and what the heck that all meant. But I ended up finding out was that when Mel Brooks approached George Lucas and, the whole Star Wars team about wanting to do a spoof on Star Wars, they had to do it under the condition that they would not sell any toys or any merchandise or anything, any kind of branding under that category. Which was kind of funny, and Mel Brooks, I think, kind of thought that was hilarious, because his intention was to never sell products or anything like that. He just wanted to make a spoof. When is any of the other Mel Brooks movies had like a toy line attached to it or anything like that? So it was kind of silly. I guess they just didn't understand the concept that Mel Brooks was trying to do. You know, he was just trying to make a parody of a movie. He wasn't trying to rip off the Star Wars brand or trying to make money off of Star Wars. So it was interesting, and I didn't notice that. I didn't learn about that until much later on, actually. But that is why that scene is in there. So if you've ever watched Spaceballs and you wonder why they got this whole merchandising thing going on, that's the reason. So ultimately, it gets to a point where, you know, Rick Moranis' character, Dark Helmet, and Bill Pullman's character, Lone Star, have to battle each other out, and they got, you know, Rick Moranis, well, Helmet, he also has a ring, so they both have lightsabers that come out of the ring. Looks kind of odd, and they get into this hilarious sword battle like you would expect, just like Vader did with Luke Skywalker. They even make a joke about the father thing, although only it's his father's, brother's, nephew's, cousin's, sister's, uncle's former roommate. And Bill Pullman's character, Lone Star, is like, so what does that make us? And then Helmet's like, absolutely nothing. So they even make a joke about that. And then there's another one. They do this odd joke where they're trying to locate where Lone Star is. And so they say, well, why don't we look at the movie? And then they stop, and they kind of break the fourth wall, where they kind of start talking about the fact that they're making the movie right now. And they look at the screen, they do a little bit of a joke, and Helmet's like, how could there be the movie when we're still making it? And so the joke is these instant cassettes. The movie's out before they're even done making it. And they pull out a video cassette of the Spaceballs movie. And they put it in, and then they fast forward. You actually see the movie playing in the screen, the movie all the way up to what you've watched to this point. And then they stop, and then they're staring at themselves. And then Rick Moranis does his, you know, flips around, looks at the screen. What the hell am I looking at? Like, I mean, they just get into this whole oddball scene of themselves staring at themselves making the movie. So, I mean, those are just classic scenes that made the movie what it is. I mean, I can always watch that movie and still laugh. It doesn't matter how many times I've seen it. And I've seen it quite a bit. I mean, I would say that and Back to the Future are the two movies I've probably watched the most. But anyways, yeah, so I just want to talk about Spaceballs. I know if you haven't seen it, I probably just spoiled most of it. But still, like I said, I watch it all the time, and I still laugh at it. So it's still worth seeing it. And since, you know, there's all the Star Wars talk, it's another good, one of those classic movies to just pull it out, watch it, laugh, have some fun, and maybe move on to the next Mel Brooks film. Oh yeah, I mean, there was always talk about should there be another Spaceballs movie. Unfortunately, you know, John Candy has passed away, Joan Rivers has passed away, Mel Brooks is a little bit too old to be doing it, and they make a joke, actually, in the movie. They do say, you know, we'll all meet again in Spaceballs 2, The Quest for More Money. But it's never happened, and in fact, I don't think Mel Brooks has ever made a sequel to any of his spoof movies. So I think that was just part of an inside joke. Another one of those, you kind of got to know the joke. But anyways, yeah, I just wanted to talk about Spaceballs. Let me know what you think of the movie. It's one of my favorite movies. I still like to watch it. And even when it's on TV, I'll stop and start watching it. I probably know the whole dialogue by now, but who knows. Anyways, hope you liked the video. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Talk to you later.